Thank you guys and girls for joining me today. I really appreciate your time and your company. Now I've got some things to talk about today regarding Nikon products and announcements, some exciting new releases coming soon I believe, which I think we're all very much highly anticipating. But today specifically I would like to talk about some non-Nikon lenses that I've recently acquired, some Sigma lenses. And they're an older style Sigma lens if you like. They're maybe not the latest technology, but they're certainly very, very suitable and capable on this Nikon Z system. So they're F-mount lenses, but with the adapter, the FTZ adapter, they work incredibly well. And I'll run you through that, why I've chosen them, why I didn't buy Nikon products, and I can tell you it's certainly nothing to do with Nikon's quality. Nikon quality is second to none, and Nikon products are fantastic. I have many top-end Nikon products, which I can illustrate for you right now, such as right here before me. I have the 50mm 1.2. Now that's a top-end Nikon lens and a fantastic product. Here, for example, I have this 70-200 zoom. Magnificent lens, very, very multi-useful. And of course, right now I'm actually filming with the Nikon FC, and that's got the 35mm 1.8 Nikon S lens. So I'm certainly not shy in purchasing these lenses. I've had almost many other varieties of the Nikon lens system in Z mount, and sometimes I keep them, sometimes I move on to something different and try something new. And that's what I've done just recently. So what two new lenses have I acquired? Well, I'll run you through them. Firstly, I'll show you this little lens, and I'll come back to it a little later. But this lens here is a 24mm, and I'll just bring it up a little closer to the camera so you can see it. It is a Sigma 24mm 1.4 Prime lens. Now you might say, why would I buy a lens like this that's going to weigh a little bit more and heavier than a Nikon Z lens and then have to use an FTZ adapter? What's the advantage? Well, the advantage was pretty much the fact that Nikon didn't have exactly this formula in the Z mount system. Yes, they do have a 24mm 1.4 that's a G mount lens, but it's actually about 2 to 3 times more expensive than this variety, and for the amount of times I use it, this seemed to be a vastly more practical option. So of course I needed to try it out and make sure it worked, and I can assure you I've done so. You'll see some video samples and photo samples very soon. But initially I just wanted to show you it actually on the camera and show how neat and tidy and well presented it is. It looks a very nice complement to the Nikon system as far as its appearance goes. I think it's quite charming and looks really nice. Now on the lens I have a filter. So if I show you the filter there, this is a 77mm filter, and it's a 3 stops or ND8 filter, and I use this predominantly for video use. So why would I use this lens for video use? I use it because it has one fantastic ability that I'm very excited about, and that is it goes down to the aperture of 1.4. So I had previously the 20mm 1.8 Z lens. No degradation to this lens at all. It was a fantastic lens. I've actually purchased that lens twice in the past, and I just recently sold it yet again to a nice gentleman lives locally here in Brisbane with me, and he wanted it for his astrophotography. So I wish him all the best with that. We made a nice deal. I got a good price. He got a good quality lens. Everybody was happy. And of course I can always purchase these things again. I buy a lot of my lenses that are actually Nikon from Japan. I buy them as second-hand trade-ins, if you like, from various companies in Japan that have extremely high quality, near mint condition second-hand lenses, and I get them for hundreds if not $1,000 off, depending on the lens itself. So I buy them quite cheap, and I can afford then to sell them cheap and then rebuy them again if I should ever wish them. But this one here was a bargain, because this cost me, and I'm going to talk in Australian dollars, so excuse me, but it was around 450 US, which equates down to about 620 Australian dollars. And for $620 to get a 24mm prime that's a 1.4 aperture, that is a real bargain. I checked around, and even second-hand, that Nikon G lens, the 24 1.4, was more than double that price for a decent quality condition one. So I feel I've got a real bargain financially, and I can assure you that it works extremely well. I've tried it out, photos and video, and it's quite brilliant. So the reason I'm using this lens, it is really almost exclusively for my Ronin S. I have it because I get in pretty close to subjects, I want a wide field of view, and I like to get some form of a cinematic experience. And I found that with 20mm at 1.8, I wasn't quite achieving it. Like if you got super close to the subject, you could get some subject separation, but because of the extra wider angle that 20 is to 24, it tended to lose a bit of that depth of field advantage. and at 1.8 it wasn't quite as shallow as I would like. So the advantages I'm getting with this lens now is that I get a much brighter look, so I can open it up a bit more, and in low light situations such as shooting indoors, corridors, or in very shady near evening environments, I can get a nice bright image without cranking up the ISO excessively. Secondly, at 1.4 and at 24 mils, which is a little bit longer in focal length than 20, I'm finding I am actually achieving a decent cinematic sort of a look. So for $600 and something, that was a really bargain to step up to that sort of a look, and you'll see that look very soon. So what I want to do is just show you how it goes onto the Ronin. I want to confirm for you that yes, it does balance, it does operate very well, and it works fine. See, with the FTZ Mark II that I'm using here as an adapter, and I will add that the FTZ2 is no really superior adapter than the 1 series, only that it doesn't have that very annoying hub on the bottom that used to always get in the way of mounts and lenses. So now it's a much more smoother and more fluid look with the adapted lens, and looks like it's all one piece and part of the equipment. So I'm sort of very happy with the FTZ2 for that reason, that it's cosmetically very good, and of course it functions every bit as well as the original. What I found very interesting about this lens, and when I turn it on and if I operate it, if I put it very close to the microphone and move objects to and far in front of it, as you can hear there was almost no motor noise at all. And I've noticed with a few of the G-mount lenses from Nikon, and they're original Nikon lenses, that the motor noise with the FTZ adapter was very high. It was actually quite distracting and irritating at some occasions. Certain lenses were more noisy than others, but I found these Sigma lenses to be extremely quiet, so I'm very happy with that. It is a little noisier than the Z-mount lens, of course, because that's a native lens and designed for the camera, but the noise is so soft and so slight that unless someone actually put the microphone right on top of the lens, you're never going to hear it or pick it up. So I'm actually very pleased with that result. That's a real bonus as well. I don't have to worry about stupid whiny clicky noises that are very distracting. So what do I use it for? Well, let me just pull that out and I'll show you. I'm going to bring up the Ronin here, and I'll show you my configuration on it and how I use it and why. So excuse me, this is going to be a little bit awkward for me because I'm doing everything as I always do, back to front and upside down here, monitor. So once I get this all connected and we turn everything on, I'll just turn on the camera and then turn on the Ronin. So it just does take a few seconds and a few steps involved. But here we go, I think we're pretty much there now. And here we have it all operational. So as you can see here, I just wanted to illustrate for you that it does function quite well. I would be holding it similar to this position. And as you can see here, it moves beautifully well. There's no issue with its fluidity or motion, and everything operates very, very nicely. What I will do is when I'm doing video from photos is I'll actually take the eye cup off. I have an aftermarket eye cup, a little bit larger than the standard one, and what I find now is if I do that, it does prevent the issues of it rubbing against the Ronin's motors here. So there's no rub or no motion issues. So it works very, very well, and I'm very happy. Let me just show you the screen so you can see that it does function. You see it there in the camera there, and you can see everything looks beautiful. I've got this massive monitor now. It's a 7-inch HD monitor, and it's in real time with the camera, and that way I'm not relying on the tiny little monitor here, and of course I don't have to worry about a little flip out one. Even flip out screens, you might think, oh well, that's great, you've got a flip out screen, you can see everything, but it's so small that it's very hard to make out detail and making sure you're actually nailing focus and composition. This big monitor here right in front of my face, like when I'm using this, let's have a look here. I'm using it like this, for example, and look how close that monitor is to my face. It's right in front of me. So obviously I'm going to be able to see every detail of what's going on. You will notice, of course, here that as I bring it around, you may be able to pick up the red hues that when I'm in focus, it has some zebra striping, sort of the red highlighting of what's in focus, and that's a great way of reassuring confidence as well. That's just a part of the aperture's monitor, does that for me. Here I have a little shade cover as well, and that just ensures that I don't get sun glare if I'm outside on the screen. So that's basically the rig, and I just wanted to very, very briefly illustrate for you what I'm actually using this lens for. So now you can see the package all together, and you can see that this monitor I can adjust in moments of seconds in any angle tilt I want to compensate for my needs. But the monitor is actually a really big advantage as well. So having the cinematic style lens now, that'll give me a nice shallow depth of field, it focuses brilliantly and it works perfectly well. And of course I can put because of this lens is what it is. It's 77mm filters. I have millions of these 77mm filters of all configurations. So I can stack them, I can use them independently. I can even use circular ND filters to adjust automatically, or polarizers. Because I have a lot of 77mm filters, this lens was a great option for me and saved me purchasing any other extras should it have been a different diameter. So it's a convenient package and I love it with the Ronin. So that's principally what I bought it for. Can I use it for photos? Well, of course I can. 24mm is fantastic for doing landscapes or large group photography. You're at a wedding, you want to get the whole crew in the photo, you can certainly do that with a 24. So again, I'm very pleased with its operation, the look and the photography quality. So I'm highly recommending these Sigma art style lenses at the 1.4 aperture for the Nikon system. They seem to work incredibly well. I've also owned the 135mm 1.8 on the Z system that equally work just as well with the FTZ adapter. So the 135 I can prove and know is good. This 24 works perfectly well, and I have another secret weapon I'm going to show you in just a minute. So just please let me put this away and turn it off, and then I'll get to you on the next lens. So hello good friends, how you going? It's Mark here again, of course, and we've got the 24mm Sigma 1.4 lens on. Nice art prime lens, and functions very well. I mainly use it on my Ronin S Series 3, but what I'm going to do now is just show you it's on a tripod, fixed position, 24mm with a little filter on it. I'm outside, light will fluctuate, it'll get bright and dark as clouds will go over and so on, so it's hard to keep the light consistent, but I do have an LED panel in front of me here. You can see the remnants maybe of a ring light above me and some fluoro lights either side, and they're just there really to balance the exposure, so if it goes a bit light and darky as the clouds go over, it shouldn't be too terrible. I have, of course, a lav mic on so you can hear me the whole time, and what I'm going to do is using the Sigma lens with the FTZ adapter, the Mark II version on my Nikon Z7 II, I'm going to show you that it does focus and function quite well. So right now what I'll do is to benefit from the F1.4 factor, I'm going to come in nice and close and just show you that lovely soft background that you can achieve. So I'm looking in my monitor at the moment, which is just to the side of the camera, and I can see of course here that it's quite a soft background and it's got focus on me and it's quite sharp. Now of course it's 24mm and I'm getting in closer, there may be a little bit of distortion in the image, sorry about that, but it's just illustrating that you can get some soft background and subject isolation when you want to. And that's really the whole purpose that I've gone into the 24mm 1.4 Sigma, that when I need to get isolation I can achieve that. So I'm just going to come back and just show you that it does focus and follow me. You'll see that the further back I get, the more it tends to focus on the background. I can see this red shift in the zebras on the monitor that is definitely focusing on this screen behind me in the background, which is my area. So that's confidence to know it is following me as I move. So as I come in closer again, you'll see it find me in focus and pull focus on me, and I'll be able to come in nice and close and get that soft background again. So as you can see, it focuses quite well, it functions perfectly. There's no issue with it being a non-native S lens, it still functions fine. As I've found with all as long as it's an F-mount lens, you'll have no trouble, and it has the suitable focus motors inside, you'll do quite well. So I've had no trouble with this with the, the 17 to 35 D lens. That's a great lens. That was an awesome, amazing, versatile lens for $600 or $700. That's about the same price this one was. So this was cost me about $650 thereabouts from Japan, Australian, and I thought that was an incredible bargain for such a, great aperture, great focal length for my Nikon system. So if I try to get something like that from Nikon, it's going to cost me like 2 to 3 times that at least, and up to $4,000 if I go for a 14 to 24, and that's only 2.8. With this one here at 24mm, I'm getting 1.4 when I want it. So that's useful for several reasons, particularly in low light situations, either night shooting or in dark corridors or in interiors. And then it also gives you the option of having a nice shallow depth of field. So I'm just going to illustrate that again. Excuse me coming into the lens, but when you do come into the lens at a decent proximity, as you can see, it nails focus and you get a nice soft background, which is great to have that option of a bit of subject separation and blur. So again, I'm coming around, it'll find me every time. Doesn't matter if I spin around and even get out of frame. As long as I sort of come back into the center area, it's definitely going to find me and get me in focus. So I wanted to dramatically, like illustrate that the lens does function and fine, and you can be confident with anything from your Tamarons to your Sigmas to old Nikon lenses or G-mount lenses. They're all going to work. So just be confident in choosing something that's a value for money, because I couldn't afford to spend $4,000 on a 14 to 24, and nor would I want to, because after all, I'm still only getting f2.8 at best. We're here. Be able to go all the way down to 1.4 is a great option and a real luxury at only $650 for this Sigma Art lens. 24mm, f1.4, 2 thumbs up. It does a great job and I'm very pleased with it. So hi guys and girls, how you going? Thank you for joining me here. We're outside in my veranda yet again, and we're going to do some sample shots. I'll be using, of course, the 24mm Sigma predominantly today, and that's what we're talking about. So, of course, you've seen some tripod video work just to illustrate that the thing does function and focuses quite well. Right now I'm using the ZFC and its kit lens to film this, but I'm going to be demonstrating my Ronin RS3 with the Nikon Z7 II and the Sigma 24mm 1.4 with the FTZ adapter Mark II on it. Now, why have I got that set up like that? Why don't I just use a Nikon lens? Because it was such a bargain to try out and use, see if it was functional for me. See, I like to do a lot of event photography for weddings and or any sort of a function. It's great to have something that's on the go and on the move, but it's also brilliant to get some subject isolation. So with the 24mm, which is not ultra wide, but wide enough, and then with the 1.4 aperture, you can actually achieve quite a good shallow depth of field when you get close in on a subject, and to have that option is really important to me. See, I've been using previously the 20mm 1.8S, and that was a great lens, worked very well, nice and light and functional, and it was quite ultra wide. But the thing is, it was just really tough getting any subject isolation because of its ultra wide factor, and it was 1.8, not 1.4 or 1.2. So the perfect compromise for me was to go a little longer in the focal length, go to 24mm, still covers everything I need, and then being 1.4 aperture, should I use it at that setting, I get a nice shallow depth of field when I want to, and also an excellent bright image when I'm using it for inside. So let me just grab it. So here I have it set up nicely, and I'm very convinced that this is going to be an excellent setup for the future. Now you may notice such luxuries as I have this big monitor on it. Now if I turn that around so you can see what's going on there, you can see here that I have wonderful zebra striping and a large monitor to be able to see what I'm doing and where I'm going. Now this shield helps with the light, just stops it reflecting off the screen unnecessarily, but you can see here the field of view I get and the look with this 24mm. All that red that you're seeing there, all that red is the focus aid. So now I can see everything in red is definitely going to be in focus, and that just makes it quick and easy to know that you're hitting the mark and you're on target. Now the balance of this thing is fantastic. It works incredibly well. I have full range of movement and I have no trouble with it at all. It's quite functional and works beautifully, and it's very smooth and fluid to use. Now just sort of what I would demonstrate for you also is if I come back a little bit here and you can see the full width of the item, you can see here that when I come down I have full flow of movement. I can adjust this monitor at a moment's notice to compensate for any angle that I'm going to and approaching, and it works very well and it's very comfortable. So you can hold it in any arm structure that suits you, keep it nice and straight. You can come down really, really, really low. I can go up as high as I want, and as you can see here, the operation is beautiful and smooth and well balanced. So if you're worrying that maybe this Sigma Art lens was going to be a bit too heavy for a Ronin, no, it's quite capable. You can balance it well even with the Z7 II, which has got a little bit of weight to it. It's no Z9 in weight, but it's certainly a decent sized mirrorless camera, and with this weighty lens which weighs about 680 grams, and then with the FTZ adapter as well, probably another 150 grams, so you're pushing around 800 grams, but it balances well and it's no issue at all. So if you're concerned that, oh yeah, these heavier lenses, they tend to push forward and throw your balance out, no, it's easy to compensate and it works really well. And this, after all, is an RS3 on the Ronin scale. This is actually one of the smaller units. They have a RS Pro, and the Pro of course is much bigger and takes a bigger camera. In fact, you could put a Z9 on that if you wanted to, and with a big heavy chunky lens. But this is more my style because it's lighter weight and you can hold it up all day and not get tedious and stressed with your arms. So the comfortable lightweight factor is great. Even with the monitor and the arm on, it actually doesn't weigh too much at all and it's quite cozy to use. So I just wanted to show you the operation of it again. You can see it's sort of flowing around and moving quite freely. Works really well. I can come down, I can go up, and it'll just follow the target that I'm pursuing really, really well. So if I change that focus point, what I do is I just quickly change the focus choice I have, and we'll go from face detect to single point. And what that'll do is mean that it's just whatever's in the middle of the screen is now going to be in focus. So I'll just make sure that that's at par. Here we go, I can see my little focus point now. Here is he. Alright, smack in the middle of the screen I think. Here we go. So let me try that again now with single point autofocus. So I can select better now what I'm focusing on once I get it in screen. Oh, look at that, what a difference that makes. So single point autofocus now, it's not getting confused by the other subjects there in the arm, and I can get right in the chest of him and make him nice and sharp. So isn't that a much better option? So this is where choosing your correct focal arrangement is very, very essential. So if I come up here now and I go back into the camera, and we'll have a look at the camera, remember now I'm choosing that center point focus, so it's auto-focusing right in the center of the camera and everything's nice and sharp and we've got a lovely blurry background. So I just wanted to prove to you that it does work, it functions very well. I'm pleased, I'm going to have a lot of fun with this, doing either weddings, festivals and even personal video shoots and music videos. It's going to work really well. I love that cinematic sort of look you can get when you come in tight. And the fact that everything functions and it was very affordable is a real bonus. So there we go, that's all the demonstration for today. It was a very brief one, but it's just about visually seeing the evidence that everything does work. So thank you for your time. So we're back again here, guys. I've just packed away the Ronin so I can concentrate on my talk about these Sigma lenses yet again. And what I would like to show you this time is the new acquisition I have, which is very, very exciting, and that is the 85mm f1.4 Sigma Art lens. So I have this for my Nikon system as well, and I'll just bring it up a little close and hopefully the camera will be kind enough to focus on that for me. And so what we've got here is a little portrait lens that I can use with my Nikon system in association with the FTZ adapter and get awesome results for portrait photography. Now immediately to come to mind you might be thinking, well hold it, aren't Nikon releasing an 85 themselves? They've got an 85 1.2 coming out any time now and that'll be available soon. Why didn't you just buy that? Well, it's a simple mathematical equation, and you might laugh when I actually bring this point out to you, but let's just have a look at the reality of that situation. That lens, I've looked at the specs, and it is a magnificent lens. All right, it's big and bulky, yes. Well, this is a pretty big and bulky lens too, and weighs quite a bit. But the bigger thing about the Nikon version coming out, the 85 1.2S, is that for Australian purchases, it's about $4,800. So just suck that in there, $4,800 Australian, or about 3.2 thousand US dollars, and that is a massive expense. $4,800, that's more than I spent on my Z7 II. So that's a massive expense, and I just really found it hard to justify the price of that lens. So I have the 50mm f1.2. So it's not that I'm against the Nikon lenses or their high quality 1.2 versions, but this lens here for me is extremely versatile. I can use this for, if I had to, street photography, although it's a bit heavy for that, but you could, because it's a standard lens, standard focal length. I use it a great deal for video because it gives a beautiful shallow depth of field on video, very cinematic. And then I also use it for photos because I do a lot of full body shots with this because it's wide enough to do that, but not so long that you're standing back, you know, feels like 100 meters away from your subject and you can't communicate with them. So for video purpose and or photos, this was worthwhile because of its versatility. It does so many things. It can wear so many hats. So I was quite happy to purchase it. Also consider that I bought this second hand and I got it for $2,000 Australian, which is an incredible bargain. That was $1,500 off its new price when it was first released. So because I got it at a super bargain and because of its versatility, I don't mind spending the money on a quality Nikon product when I use it all the time, and I do use this a lot. It is the same sort of principle, of course, with the 70-200. The 70-200 is an incredibly versatile lens from Nikon. Yes, it was expensive, about $3,500 Australian, but for me, because I use it all the time, I use it both for the versatility of functions, weddings and venue photography, also great for video because of its 85, or I should say from its 70 to 200mm length. It's a very versatile lens when you need a bit of extra reach. And of course, that 70-200 covers 85, doesn't it? So I can use this very frequently for video, and I find a 2.8 for video is more practical very often than a very shallow depth of field. So I do happily buy Nikon products. Don't think that I'm bagging the expense or weight or size of Nikon lenses. No, I own them. I completely 100% for them and favour them. But in this case, the sheer value, bang for buck dollar value of it was irresistible. I couldn't say no. See, I purchased this lens second-hand in mint condition again, and I got it for, I think it was, let's have a think now. Yes, about $650 Australian. $650 Australian or about 400 US. Let's have a think about that. $650 Australian for a 85mm 1.4. Or I can spend $4,800, which is about 5 times as much. For what? For an extra stop down, go to f1.2 instead of 1.4. Look, be honest with you, at 85mm, the difference between 1.4 and 1.2 is marginal. Oh, it's there, it exists, but you've really got to be looking for it. I mean, if you see the two photos side by side at 1.4 and 1.2, it's a little bit tricky to discern the difference. Unless you blow it up to 100% and start pixel peeping, it's a little bit hard to tell. And considering also with Photoshop and Lightroom's option of blurring the background and isolating a background for editing, you can just notch down 10-15% the softness of the background, you end up with pretty much the same result, or it's very hard to discern the difference. So the fact that I could save over $4,000 Australian by purchasing the Sigma 1.4 instead of purchasing the Nikon 85 1.2, there was a no-brainer in that one. I didn't have to think too long to give it a try. The main thing was, what is the image quality like? And does the autofocus work? And how is the performance on the camera? And I can assure you, and with photo samples, I will illustrate that it works beautifully well. It does snap to focus very quickly, or quickly enough for my use. And considering that this is a portrait lens, portrait subjects do not tend to run away from you while you're taking the photo. Generally, the model, whether male or female, will sit still when they're told. So it's not too hard to get focus. And of course, you can always take 2 or 3 shots to guarantee, but I've never had to do that with this lens, but you could. So the only issue I had with this lens that made it not the best buy I've ever had in my life was the filter size, which is a bit annoying. Yes, this is a girthy, large unit, and the 85 1.2 from Nikon has a 82mm diameter for a filter, which is very convenient because I actually have some 82mm filters, so that was really useful. But for me, even though this is an 86mm filter, by the use of a simple step down ring from 86 to 82, and then using my conventional filters that I have, my 82mm filters, I find that I didn't have to buy any other filters or suffer any grief, because any vision editing or loss of surface area in the photo was so minimal, 5% perhaps. And with the fact that I always overshoot photo anyway, so what I will do is I will take the frame of a photo, and rather than have it so tight that their fingertips or elbows are just in the frame, I tend to overshoot that by about a foot anyway. I've got 45 megapixels. I can afford to lose 5% of those megapixels in cropping later on to get everything framed perfectly. But give yourself room to crop, you know what I mean? If you take the photo too tight and just get the image in the scene, then of course you've got no options to crop out distractions in the background or any vision editing, which now is something I can do. So if I were to have any annoying vision editing, it's no trouble to crop it out, just overshoot the shot a bit wider, and then you get all that luxury of doing so in post-editing if you wish. And I found that to be able to spend another 30 seconds to a minute in editing, and that saves me $4,000 in a purchase, well, I know which one I'm going to choose. So if I had $5,000 to throw around and didn't care, and I was, rich and like tossing money out of a wheelbarrow at people, then sure, buy the 85 1.2, and I'm sure you'll have a magnificent experience with it. But for a $4,000 saving, this unit here is going to be the one in my camera bag at the moment. Maybe in the future, we'll see. So anyway, what I'll do is I'll put it on the actual camera so you get a look at it on. And I'm just going to take this off here with the FTZ adapter and show I was using the FTZ adapter too. And it functions very well, this unit. So I'll just put that down to keep it safe. And then I'm going to connect these two. I'm just going to add this on. There we go, got it on nice and tight. You hear the click. Always make sure you got the click on. The last thing you want to do when using FTZ adapters or any such lens is not listen for the click, assume you've locked it on, pick the camera up and the lens falls to the ground the first photo you take. So always make sure it is secured. Give it a little rattle test first, any lens, Nikon Z or not. Always give it a little bit of a jiggle test just to make sure it is locked on and is secure. I think that's a very sensible 5 seconds of your life. You ensure you don't lose something. But no, it fits on, it looks really good. I find it all blends in beautifully. The black, even with the white dots, it matches perfectly and looks like it's all part of the system, and it ends up about the same size and weight now as the A85 1.2 from Nikon in the S system. So it looks good, performs really well, the focus is fantastic, everything works beautifully, and I'm very happy with this lens. Also, here's another little tip that I thought was funny. This one does, by its nativeness, have a little window option here, which I thought was pretty cool because they actually discarded that from the 85 1.2. It was certainly, the window was certainly on with the 50. This is obviously a digital screen, but this analog screen is there, and to me, I like those little screens. I just think they're a little step up in professionalness. So I was a bit sad when they told us that little window was leaving the unit. I really like that sort of thing. I think it elevates the prestige of the lens, to be honest with you. But anyway, this has all the features that I need, and I'm very happy with it, and I'll show you some photo samples very soon. So I just wanted to show you it actually on the camera. This video I'm doing right now, and this is an important aspect I should tell you. This is part one of a two-part video series on these two lenses. See, the 24mm and the 85mm, and I will bring along, of course, the 50 1.2 anyway, and all my photo shoots. It's just in the bag in case I think that's the most appropriate thing to use in between the two. It's nice to have something that's like an in-betweener, isn't it? So this 85 here is going to be my portrait lens for all my photo work, and this is particularly relevant to my, I think what you would call in the United States the Comic-Con festivals or weddings. And here we often refer them as a supernova festival here in Australia, where people dress up in their various superheroes and comic book fantasy characters, and you get a lot of colour and extravaganza. So I'm loving all the idea of the extravagant costumes for photos. It's sort of like a wedding theme, if you like, but you can be anything in any colour you like. So rather than just the traditional black and white, you've got every colour under the rainbow and all sorts of glamour. The interesting test for the camera is, of course, going to be the fact that a lot of the people will be wearing masks, contact lenses, some form of glasses, or face paint, which can make it quite tricky for the camera to find eye detect or face detection because the face isn't traditional anymore. And that's actually a really good test on the camera, and that's the thing we're looking forward to in about 30 days' time. I'll bring out after the convention the video and photo samples and show you just how well or poorly, for example, the lens actually works. I'm extremely confident it's going to look fantastic because all the photo samples I've taken so far are working 100% and look great. So that's something to look forward to in about 30 days, where you'll see both the Ronin and the 24mm in full operation, and you'll see how well the videos work. You'll see the autofocus, you'll see the quality and the cinematicness of the lens here, the 24mm 1.4 Sigma, and then you can also see all the photo samples from the 85. Now, will that mean I'm ignoring these Nikon lenses? No, as I said, it'll be in my camera bag, and there'll be many opportunities where the 50 1.2 is going to actually be the go-to lens because I'm doing perhaps a lot of full body shots. And when I do a full body shot, I don't like using an 85, regardless of what company made it, because you're just getting too far away from the subject. And when you want to communicate with them and you say, oh, please, can you raise your arm, or can you fix that stray hair on your face, you're actually screaming at them, yelling at them, especially if there's any sort of a crowd around and a bit of hubbub of noise. You're really projecting your voice and you're drawing a lot of undue attention to yourself. So it's actually very favourable to be able to have the option of getting in closer when you want to. So that's why the 50 1.2 will still always be in my bag and be brought out and used. So that's pretty much what I'm covering with you for lenses and photos and camera gear today. There is a little minor detail that I want to bring out, and this is a funny thing because recently I upgraded my mobile phone. And when I say upgrade, I like second-hand bargains when I can find them. I've purchased recently a Samsung G21. Now previously I had the G9, so it was a bit of an older series. We've gone up to the 21 now, which is about 3 or 4 years newer. And I quite like the phone. The phone functions very well. I didn't need to spend 3 times what I paid for this for the 23 version this year, because quite frankly it didn't have any features that I particularly need. If I want specialist lenses or camera gear, I'm going to stick to my Nikon and Sigma equipment and use professional lenses. So the cameras that are in these are pretty much irrelevant for me, other than making for documents or selfies or something to post. But certainly the function of the phone is very good. But what I did notice about any modern phone, and it can be an Apple phone, it can be a Samsung phone, is that they've lost the little 3.5 jack. And now who cares about that? Well, I care about it because I have here some quality headphones. These ones here are some Sennheiser headphones, and they're high quality studio quality phones, and they're great for when you want to check your sound quality in your camera when you're doing video. So I don't leave them on all the time, but it's just nice to check the sound and go, oh yes, the tones are good and the sound level is right, everything's working out okay, and there's no secret little buzzy noises you missed out on. So the headphone use is really good in the camera, and this will of course plug straight into my Nikon camera. But however, if I want to plug it into my phone and just listen to something in private or quietly, let's say some music, and I don't want to be distracting people on a train or public transport, I can't plug this thing in anywhere anymore. It doesn't work. But of course there are companies and that make these little adapters, and it's a simple USB-C adapter to the 3.5 jack. So you just buy these little adapters. I think this cost me like $6.50, and I had it imported from overseas, and you just simply plug that into your headphones, and of course that adapter goes now into your USB circuit, and it will absolutely work with your phone, and you can listen to all your music or videos in confidentiality and private, and it's almost very discreet, doesn't take up any space, and works extremely well. So I just want to bring that out. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows about it. I don't think I'm the first one to discover these, but I just wanted to bring out that there are solutions to your issues. If you're having a problem, there's usually always some form of an adapter you can purchase that will work for you and get the job done. So I'll show you a closer photo of that. The packet I brought is this one here. I'll just bring that up. Hopefully the camera is kind to me and actually focuses in on it. I'll bring the picture up close onto the screen up here and show you what it was. It doesn't actually matter which brand. I just found that this brand functioned quite well and looked professional at least, so I was happy with that and matched the gear I had. I got a silver end here, and this is a relatively grey silver end, and with the gold connections as well, it seemed to look very nice. So it functions well, and I just wanted to say, if you come across that issue and you thought, oh no, what have I got to do, buy all new connections and equipment? No, you just buy the cheap adapter for $6 and it works perfectly well. So that was one subject I wanted to bring out about little adapters and so on. The other thing was, I've been talking to you about these Sigma lenses, and whether it be this 85 or the 24, whether it be a 50 art lens or even the, what was it, the 135 1.8 that I mentioned, you can have a special dock here that goes into your computer, and this dock, what it does is it connects up to your lens very, very simply, just like fitting it to a camera body or any other adapter. So we'll put it into this. There we go. Lock it in, you hear the click, you know it's in, plug it into computer, and you can download the latest firmware. Now this dock retails for probably about $100 or something like that. Sometimes you got it in the kit when you bought the lens, which was nice. Of course, I bought these second-hand lenses, so I wasn't sure I was going to get it, but kindly enough, when I bought the 85mm lens, it came with that dock. It was free of charge. It was just part of the kit that I purchased, and I was very happy to have that. So I thank them very much for including it into the package, because it just means that now I can upgrade the firmware whenever I like, and I don't have to feel that I've got old technology that's not up to date. In fact, the first thing I did when I got these lenses delivered to me and I had the dock is I immediately went and downloaded the latest firmware for these Sigma Art lenses, and now I know they're completely current and at least up to date as best we can with the Nikon system. So I'm happy with all those purchases, and I just wanted to encourage people to look around before they go and spend bucket loads of money on a brand new lens, and really they can get the same result for about 1/5 of the price if they just shop around, and that you don't need to be feeling like you're missing out, because the quality of these lenses on the Nikon system is quite astounding. So save yourself the money if you wish to. If you wish to spend the money on some high-end quality Nikon products, I wish you all the best, and I say that's also an excellent option and decision. It is an excellent decision if you have the money to spend. Personally, I'm buying so many things I've got to be really cautious, so I try and spread the money out a bit more. But thank you for your time, guys. I hope you've had some fun with this. Remember, look forward to the part 2 of this video, when I'll have all those Comic-Con photos and videos for you to look at through the Sigma lens, and you'll see how they all look on that day.